Hi, I'm Ty Crowder with Total Finishing Solutions. Today we're going to show you a cartridge style batch powder booth. This type of booth uses cartridge filters. Here, we'll take a tour as you come on in. This booth uses cartridge filters to collect the powder. As the airflow is drawn in, the powder will collect into the filter. Periodically, these will back pulse with compressed air dropping the powder into the collection tray at the bottom. This is what we call a spray to waste booth, so all of the powder in this booth isn't reused. We do make roll-away modules that you can use if you want to collect specific colors of powder and keep separate for reclaim and reuse. So this customer has good lighting. We've got the LED fixtures in. We've got 8 banks of lights with 4 bulbs per. This is our intake filter, so incoming air into the booth enters through a very good filtration system, is drawn cross-draft over into the cartridge collector. The other half of the booth works the other way. So it's different opposing airflow. So the idea is you can stand on this side of the part, in this half of the booth, my powder's going that direction. A second person would stand on that half of the booth with the powder going that direction, so we can therefore coat both sides of the part. That's the basic overview of how this booth works. This customer has 2 MS Powder Elite box feed units. There are 2 types of powder units. There's box feed and there's hopper feed. Box feed is typically used for people who are going to do color changes, have very easy powders to spray. Hopper feed is typically for people who need to condition the powder because it's a little more aerated than a box, and works good for heavier powders like metallics. Is good for very not changing colors frequently as well, although you can have multiple hoppers and switch the pump between. So number 1 rule in powder coating is ground. Everything has to be properly grounded. So we've had them put in a copper earthen ground. This is driven and drilled 6 feet into the ground. Our unit itself is going to be grounded to this, and our parts actually also going to be grounded to this. All right, so that's rule number 1, is make sure you have a good ground. All right, so we're going to walk through all the startup steps to powder coating. So number 1, when you get your actual powder, which by the way, powder should be stored in an air-conditioned room, normally below 68 degrees, because when it's elevated in temperature, you're going to get clumping, or little funny things can happen depending on the powder, but you can get like rock-like things where it's clumping, kind of like brown sugar does in your kitchen when it's hot in the summer, right? You can't get any moisture or humidity in, so it needs to be stored in a cool, dry place. But even if it is stored in a cool, dry place, the best practice before you even open the box is to do what they call roll the powder. So we're just going to simply roll that box. And that's just breaking up the powder that's in there, okay? Then we're going to open up the box. Okay, take out the bag. So I'm kind of inspecting the bag. See, this is actually very good. It's not very hard. I'm not seeing any hard clumps like a brown sugar bag at home, right? So that's just what I'm looking for, is to make sure this is nice and loose, nothing's hard, okay? After that's all inspected and it's like what I want, I'm gonna put it back in the box. Then we're gonna load the box onto the box feed unit. It just simply loads at a 45-degree angle. You're going to put your suction rod in after you open up the bag of powder, and that's going to vibrate and aerate the powder. All right, so before we start powder coating anything, we always want to check the ground of the workpiece holder, the workpiece itself, and of our equipment. All right, so this little device is called a ground detect meter. I suggest every powder coater have one. We sell them on our website at totalfinishingsupplies.com. It's a simple red light, green light, yellow light meter. So if it's flashing green when I push the button and touch the piece, it's good to coat. If it's got a red, you're not going to get wrapped. Yellow, kind of questionable, right? So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to push the button. I have this connected to our ground, by the way. I have the cart with a workpiece holder connected to the ground as well. I'm going to press the button. You can see as soon as I touch it, it goes straight to the green OK. If I pull away, it's not showing a ground, right? So I know that this workpiece holder is properly grounded. I'm now going to touch the actual piece that we're going to coat. The same test. I got a green OK, so that piece is properly grounded. It will tell me that it will conduct and hold the charge of the powder. If I haven't done this, or you don't know for a fact that your workpiece is grounded, you're completely going down a path of misery. You're going to have things where powder bounces off, it doesn't get into corners, it will arc or spark, things like that. So if you're seeing any of that, you do not have a properly grounded workpiece. Most common issues that you see is the piece itself will become coated with powder itself, and over time you try to reuse the same hooks without cleaning them. The paint itself insulates the ground. Okay. You also want to minimize the amount of connection points, right? So ideally, I want to have this piece connect to my ground with as few contact points as possible. I oftentimes see people use chains. Chains are a terrible ground because you have many points of connection, a lot of opportunity for the connection to get loose and not connect. But this little tool is super handy because I know now exactly that my part is never going to be a problem. So I would always check the cart and the part before I start painting each and every time. Okay, we've now loaded the box of powder on after we've rolled it. This is the suction rod. Right. It actually comes all the way out. You've got the venturi in here, you've got your pump air connected up here. On the MS unit, there's actually a cleaning spot. So if you're switching between powders before you put it in the next one, it fits right here. And when I actually push in there, it'll send a pulse of air through the whole hose and out the gun to clean, right? So huge help there. Now when I put the suction rod in and I put it in the box, I don't want to push it down into the powder because that'll impact the powder and give me a problem. So I want to just gently set it there. As this vibrates and loads, that suction rod will find its natural path down. It's actually sending air through like a little pumice stone, which creates fluidization just around the pocket of that suction rod. And that's how the powder is actually pumped. It's pumped just like a fluid, only it's just suspended in a cloud of air as a loose powder. Okay, so the on button is a switch. You're going to flip down. You're going to see this boot up. Got the power lights turned on the gun, so I know it's thinking. Got the home screen. Okay, so now I have essentially a gauge for 4 things. I have my total air, which is the top left. I have my venturi or pump air, which is the top right. I have my voltage and my microamps, okay? So if I want to, here's a way to think of it. If I want to go faster, I add more total air. That's going to be a lot of volume. Think of that as your macro adjustment. If I want to fine tune the cloud, that's my micro adjustment. I'm going to move this up and down, and it's going to take a portion of the total air, in this case 40% of my total air, and move it to pump air versus atomizing air. Okay, voltage is the attraction. Think of that like horsepower. That's how fast it wants to get to the part. Microamps, I always compare to torque, right? So if I'm burning out, I've got too much microamps, I'm losing power, I'm not getting that wrap, lower the microamps. But together, you keep them high on a brand new piece of steel, you're gonna get good work. Get into complicated areas like Faraday cage, things like that, you want to lower probably both of them with the microamps especially. Now these guns are smart. As you move towards a workpiece, it'll automatically make adjustments on the fly. You don't have to do anything. These are just your general parameters. Okay. Now we also have the ability here to make programs. So I can go to the program menu. I can see right now I'm in program 1. I can have it for standard or metallic. I'm going to hit standard, and I can save. I can see what that program is, which already was on the home screen. But I hit program, I go to program 2, I hit work. You can see it has now changed the parameters, made that 50 and 20 instead of 70 and 40, right? I can also do on the fly anytime I want, make a change out here, and it'll stay. So super easy. I also have on the gun itself the ability to toggle between recipes or make on-the-fly changes between more or less powder as well. We also have a simple button for 1 layer or recoat 2 layers. So if I'm powder coating over top of something that's already been powdered, you hit the recoat button and it'll automatically make the changes that it suggests for that. So very, very super easy to use. Last note, there is another on-off button here, right? So I'm gonna put this back on 1 layer. If this isn't on, nothing will work here. So there is a touch screen on. Okay, so I've got my powder in. I'm just simply gonna pull the trigger and you can see we got powder coming out. Right, so that's all it took to load it. So I'm gonna walk over to the part itself. And that was the motor and the sound you heard, that was the vibration. So it's got a motor that's gonna vibrate that box to help also keep that powder always falling towards the suction rod. Okay, so you want that to happen. When you start to powder coat, you always want to paint the hardest side first. So don't start on the easy, smooth side. Go from the back side. Work the hard areas first. And you never start and stop the gun on the part. So unlike liquid painters, you know, you might be used to that. You want to start over here. There's usually a little pulse of powder, and then it evens out. Okay, once I've got that even out, then I'm going to go ahead and direct it in and powder coat. All right. I stopped off the part. You can see that almost pretty much wrapped all the way around the front. So that's fully wrapping and painting. Okay. So we would go ahead and paint our entire rack. We'd roll this into the oven and cure it. Every powder is going to have a different cure time, and we'll go through the oven operation in the next video. So I do see a white spot right here. Top of the roof. Perfect. So, I'll wait for that to stop. We do offer tools if you are wanting to measure your coating thickness prior to curing it. We have what's called the Coatmaster Flex and a few other tools from Coatmaster that would right now allow me to take and measure that before I cure it. So if I have a very critical film thickness requirement, that's a way I can do it before I actually cure it and know that on all points of that I want to measure that I've got the right thickness on. You can look at more information on our website on the Coatmaster Flex on totalfinishingsupplies.com. Okay, so one thing you guys need to be aware of is what's called a Faraday cage, okay? So that is an inside corner, and electricity, just like water, is trying to seek the path of least resistance. So I'm drawing a Faraday cage. Here comes my powder molecule, right? It's charged with electricity. My piece is grounded. Well, to come into this point, it's a much shorter distance to go to the edges here. So you'll end up with this effect where an inside edge doesn't get as much powder, or you'll struggle to get powder in there at all. So there's a mode in here or a recipe you can make specifically for recoat or Faraday. And essentially what it's doing, it's lowering the voltage and the microamps. In some cases, you may turn the microamps all the way off. And that's charging the particle less, and therefore you'll get better penetration. Okay, so each thing's a little bit unique. You'll have to develop your own recipes, but that's the key to getting an inside edge, okay? Another little trick and tip, keep a little piece of copper wire with you. If you're having trouble getting into a Faraday edge, or this would be a Faraday corner right here, that's a pretty easy one, but if you get things that are really tight, like a tube, take a piece of copper wire. You're grounded when you're touching the workpiece, which, by the way, you should be wearing no rubber soles. You want to wear leather soled shoes, or you want to wear a strap that is connecting you to ground. Things you can get. But you would just take the actual piece of copper and touch the piece, because you're the ground, and it'll improve the ground in a very particular hard to get area. That's a little tip and trick that an experienced powder coater will do. So hope that's a helpful. Right, so now we're going to show you guys how to do the cleanup on this, all right? So it's very simple and easy. I'm going to pull this suction rod out of the box, okay? I'm going to stick it in here where I was showing you earlier. I'm going to make sure the booth is turned on in this video. I'm going to aim the gun at it, because it's going to come shooting right out here of the gun into that cartridge collector. And there's a button right here that says cleaning. So let's go ahead and turn the booth on. ask me for sure if I bumped it accidentally. Do I for sure want to start the cleaning? I say yes. It's just going to sit there until it stops, and it's going to pulse air through and clean out this powder hose for you. Very, very simple. No other unit that I know of does it that easy. I'm just going to take the positive shot. Good idea to use a zip tie and put this back in a cold refrigerated room. Set this aside. And now I'm just going to take my glove. I can blow the food down and direct stuff into the cartridge collectors. If I'm done cleaning, I can just stop on this. I want to make sure that this is on off before I start taking stuff apart on the gun. Okay? So in here, off, I can press this, take the hose out, and I'm just going to blow all this down. Okay, now something you don't want to do not blow air right backwards up the passage of the gun. You only want to really be blowing the powder in the direction of travel. Okay? So got everything all cleaned up. I can disassemble this more if I wanted to. There's a little wedge and electrode in there that we can take all the way apart and pull off as well. Just going to put this back together. I can adjust the fan any way that I want. Plug that back in there. Got one more thing to show you here. This is the Wacom 2.0 True Light. Okay, so this fits via this replaceable size rubber ring or silicone ring all the major powder guns. So this fits Wagner, Dima, MS Powder, Samez, all of them. I've personally tested it. This fits on over the nozzle. Okay, you can spin this to wherever you feel that it's comfortable. This is made out of carbon fiber, weighs about a ½ pound. It's battery operated, LED, and it's rechargeable. Has about a 3-hour life. Look at how much brightness, even though this booth is really, really well lit. Look if I'm trying to get into a corner or to spray something. This is a huge, huge tool for all powder coaters so that you can see, especially imagine you're spraying black or something like that. I also have a customer who's put this on his blast nozzle. He coated it with duct tape to give it a little more protection. We actually also have the 1.0 light, which doesn't have the digital screen, which if you're going to be blasting, you might want to look at. Another feature that this light has, you see the red arrow, this will give you programmable gun distancing. So I can program it as I get closer or further away from the part, it'll go red, yellow, green. So I can train a new painter what the proper gun distance is. I don't have it programmed currently. But this is lightweight, doesn't really add much to the gun at all. And now I have way, way, way better improved lighting. So that's something we highly recommend. And again, you can find on our website at totalfinishingsupplies.com.